California Food Bank. We are here as a part of our Conversations for the Common Good series, where we're diving into some of the challenging issues facing our valley. If you didn't get a chance to see it already, we interviewed Kym during our service this morning, and you can catch that on our website or on Facebook, but we thought we'd provide some space for some questions live. So feel free to comment on whatever platform you're watching and add your questions, and we'll ask Kym right now. So, Kym, to start us off, I'd love to hear how you got involved with the food bank and how long you've been there and what that's been like for you.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. And it was such a pleasure to spend some time with you earlier, preparing for the video for today. So I have been with the food bank for 8 years. I started as the director of development, which for those of you that don't know, that means I was in fundraising. And so I was able to connect donors and their philanthropic dollars to making a difference in our community. And so really that connecting those who really wanted to make a difference and be able to mobilize them into helping us achieve our mission. And 4 years ago, I transitioned to CAO and just recently was appointed co-CO with my fabulous colleague, Natalie Caples.
That's great. What drew you to this work to begin with?
You know, everyone knows what it feels like to be hungry. Hunger is just so relatable, and it's a human right, and everyone should have enough food to eat. And so people don't really argue with hunger when you tell the story and you make the connection. Even people who might have misconceptions about what it means to be hungry or how people got there, once you really give them a picture of who our clients are and the lives that they live, all of that kind of goes away. And so I'm just so blessed that I get to wake up every single day and do this. I have great colleagues. We have an incredible community that is really compassionate and in tune. And I think that has been increasing over time, in tune to the needs. Their eyes are open. And so it's been absolutely fabulous.
That's great to hear. How have you seen hunger change during the time you've been with the food bank?
So when I first started, we had just gotten over a drought, and there was a lot of interest and awareness about hunger in our rural communities, as many people were being furloughed and lost their jobs in rural communities due to hunger. And so I kind of came in on the tail end of that and watched the interest kind of go away. And one of our jobs is to really bring to the forefront how common hunger is in neighborhoods you wouldn't really expect. And so, yes, we have a lot of rural hunger here in Central California, but we have hunger in every single neighborhood. And, you know, even it's Valley Oak Elementary, which sits just outside of Woodward Lakes. 1 in 4 kids struggles with hunger on a daily basis. Wow. And those kids aren't bused in. Those are kids that live there in that neighborhood that struggle with hunger. And so, you know, hungry people really do exist among us all the time. And so you kind of see this an evolution of how people see it and how they experience in our community. And obviously COVID, people are even more aware of colleagues and people in their neighborhood that are losing jobs or their hours have been cut dramatically because of COVID. And so it really is an everyday experience for many, many people right here in our community.
Are you guys tracking like your I don't know what you call it, your participation, your guests, the number of people you're serving? Are you tracking that over time, and how has that changed in the last few months?
Yeah, we are tracking it. It is a little bit looser due to COVID. We're not being as stringent because of social distancing and because we don't want people to be standing in lines for hours and hours and hours. And so we do some spot check-ins and whatnot. So we're seeing anywhere between a 20 and 50% increase on an agency by agency basis. And we're seeing 25% of our clients are new. They've never sought services through the Emergency Food Network. And so the need is great. And again, a lot of new people coming through for the very first time.
That's incredible. I know we've probably seen a 50% increase in ours, and we went from monthly to weekly. And we're still getting that many people. It amazes me. We're normally out of food by like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning.
It goes so fast. What time does your distribution start?
Officially 8.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're ready to go. There are people there. And so you start
we get there by 6.
Yep.
And then just don't want to keep people waiting in line. So we just give it out as soon as people show up.
Yep. That's a common experience across our agency network, unfortunately. And we're very lucky that you guys have stepped forward and have continued and have increased your distributions. I know there are many agencies that struggle and have struggled to even keep their doors open during this time. That volunteer base tends to skew a little bit older, and so it becomes unsafe for them, and they're not always sure how to modify their services. So we've increased all of our distributions by over 20% overall, but that has been really pushed a lot by the food bank, not agency partners that have had to close. And so it's this real balance on relationship and how can we make people safe and how can we provide services where they're needed most. So there's a lot of juggling that goes on these days.
You guys have been busy, that's for sure.
We have.
We've noticed that it's been challenging to get food some weeks. Tell me a bit about how you guys get food, and do you pay for it? Is it subsidized? How does that work? And what's been happening with COVID? Is just there so much more need? There's just not as much food to go around?
We get our food through multiple channels. So we get donated product from farmers and manufacturers. We get donated product from retailers. That's where we've seen a huge tightening. So basically our agency network and ourselves go to retailers when things are short dated or labels are changing. And they go there and they pick up food. Well, when you go to the store these days, there's not a lot of extra on the shelves. The shelves are depleted. And so there really isn't anything to donate to food banks. And so that's typically 6 million pounds of food every single year. And so even if you just cut that in half for the last 6 months, that's 3 million pounds of food that was available here in Central California that has essentially vanished overnight. We also get food. We purchase food, regular desirable items that aren't donated to us, like rice and beans, peanut butter, milk. And so we have relationships with wholesalers, but just like the supermarket, when there isn't anything available, there was a lot of supply chain issues, especially at the beginning of COVID. And even though we were buying product by the truckload, we just couldn't compete with the Walmarts and Vons and even Save Marts, just in demand and need. And those customers would sometimes bump us down the line on when we would be able to get product. And so pre-COVID, if we were running low on an item, we could order an entire truckload, then it could be here within 2 weeks. And now a lot of those ship dates are in the 6 to 12 weeks. And so we have to be a lot better about planning. And sometimes there's just things that just aren't available to us. And so we have to buy something else. And so that's why there's been a little bit of a pinch on the menu. Originally, there was a huge flood in produce in the marketplace. A lot of restaurant, food service contracts were canceled. And so there was a huge rush to donate what could be donated. But then our donated product has also kind of side. Luckily, there is the Farmer to Table program from the USDA, and so we are getting some additional produce there. But what we're finding is the food that we're getting today is from different avenues and different vendors than we've ever got them before. And so this work really is relational, from where we get our food to our agency partner network to the clients that we serve.
That's so interesting and so complicated.
It is. It is. And we
Yeah.
really are a, food logistics company in many ways. The end user, the client just doesn't pay.
Mm-hmm. How, in ordinary days, like how much do you purchase versus is donated?
That's really driven by our agency network and what they desire and what they want. And so we purchase product items that our agency partners want, but we don't get donated. We buy it wholesale and then pass those savings onto our agency network. Donated product produce is always free. We bear the cost for all transportation and overhead. And then other donated items, there's a small shared maintenance fee that helps cover some of those costs. And so it is really the purchase product is really driven by agency network. Here during COVID, we have been purchasing a significant amount of food to be able to meet the need and the increased need. And so we have launched a number of new programs, one of them being Groceries to Go, which is a pickup and delivery program. Clients can register online, and they are elderly or immunocompromised. They can put in their address and a food box will be delivered to them, or they can book an appointment to pick up a food box at our food bank. And we're serving about 1,200 clients a week through that program, and that's all purchase product. It's a guaranteed menu. And then in small rural communities where there isn't an agency partner, someone that has where there's basically just volunteers and there's not an overarching organization, we're pushing some additional food when there's no other food services in that community.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then for funding, are you guys strictly donor based, or do you get state or federal money also?
We do also receive government contracts, but it really varies. There's a large influx in federal funding at the moment to help meet the need, but it's typically like 10 to 15% of our budget, and basically the way it works is that we receive an allocation of food. We hold the contract for Fresno County for the USDA as the chief. But we hold the contract in Fresno. We receive an allocation, basically points that we choose on menu what we want to purchase, and then the government then provides a stipend to account for the distribution and the storage of that food while it is here. So it really is nominal for what we do, and the stipend never covers the cost that it takes to run the program.
Yeah, I can imagine. We have a couple of questions coming in. One person's asking about your advocacy work and how that works and how you're using it to bring attention to the food desert issues that we face here.
Yeah, we do a lot of work at the state and federal level, and we're very particular about programs and legislation that relates specifically to food. And so we do a lot of work on school meals, and also we just did a lot of work on SSI being eligible for SNAP, so a lot of CalFresh work. We were one of 2 states until recently that if you received SSI disability, you were ineligible to receive food stamps. So SSI is pegged below the poverty level, yet those individuals were not eligible. And so we do a lot of work with our legislators to highlight the need in our community. And we're always looking for those in our community who want to reach out and tell their story, how these government programs have impacted them, to help us really put a face to hunger in our community, because it really doesn't look like what most people think. A lot of people think it's the homeless population, and while that's an important population, it's about 1% to 2% of the clients we serve. And so most of our families have at least one working adult in the home. 1 in 3 kids in our community struggle with hunger on a daily basis. And so it's really important that we we educate the community and our legislators on the policies that they make, so they can help provide for the most vulnerable in our community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Helping fix the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So important. I have a question that came in about what are the biggest barriers to the church dealing with hunger? What keeps the church in general from engaging well on this issue?
Ooh, that's a tough one. And I think that UPC is, uniquely positioned in your neighborhood. So it's kind of twofold. I think there's a lot of churches that don't see hunger and its prevalence and think it's another part of the city's problem and not their problem. And I think that we need to, mobilize the church and what we can do. What if those with more resources did a little bit extra and could provide to those that had less? You guys really are like on the line, on the northern line of services. The need is so great in your neighborhood, but we don't see a lot of active participation from churches further north. And so we see a lot of churches in the south and in the southeast part of our town who are really, really active in serving their community because they see it every single day. They just don't have the resources. And so I think, as the broader church really coming together and figuring out how we can help each other, because it really doesn't take a ton. And whether that's labor, I mean, you guys have a distribution. It can be pretty labor intensive, or additional funding. A little bit can go a really long way. And I think that all that money doesn't necessarily even have to come to the food bank. That could be churches among churches who are coming alongside each other, who see a need in another church's neighborhood and want to help make a difference.
That's a great idea. Yeah. How could churches or church members get involved with the advocacy aspect related to hunger?
I think the first is really just to do research and to learn more about hunger. So 1 in 4 people in our community struggle with hunger. For children, it's 1 in 3. It really is everywhere. You can get more information on our website at ccfoodbank.org. And it really is seasonal on when we're super active. But there's a lot of information on our website. We also have a number of call to actions on our Facebook page. So following us on Facebook will let you know when we need you to do something, to share it, to call your legislators, and to really make a move. So there's a lot of ways.
That's brilliant. And it never even occurred to me to look at your Facebook page.
Yes.
So I will follow you guys.
Yeah, where it's at. And a little secret between friends here, if you send a message, Robin Allen Maddox is the person behind the Central California Food Bank messaging. So you can just drop her a line.
We have some practical questions coming in. You had talked earlier about how the relationship aspect is so important in this work, but how has that shifted during social distancing? Is it gone? Are there still ways to make connections?
I think it's even more important now than it was before, or at least it's right there in your face. You really can't do this work alone. And so we've really tried to embrace a better together mentality. And so what unique skills, what unique positioning do we all have in the community to really make a bigger difference? And so that has helped us find new partners. That has helped us highlight those that maybe were just part of the group, but really stand out and do something special, such as yourselves who are now going from monthly to weekly. Where do we have the ability to maximize, to make the largest impact? And so I think, as organizations grow, it's easy to kind of treat everyone exactly the same. But we all need something a little bit different. And so we've made some, investments in capacity at the agency level. We've had agency partners such as UPC make, capacity investments. So it's really leveraging each other in a really good and comfortable way. What skills do we have to bear and how to make a bigger impact? And that has proven to be really, really successful. So like in the rural communities, we have some new partners, people that we didn't know existed that are doing distributions in the evening, targeting our rural farm workers who at a typical distribution during working hours would not be able to attend one of our distributions. And we really find that there's a significant amount of need for those that are right at the poverty line that maybe don't qualify for additional assistance. They kind of fall through the cracks and they just need a little bit of additional help to make ends meet.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Another question that came in is, how are you advertising the distribution times? How are you getting that out to the community? Or where could people look if they were in need of food?
Yeah, there's multiple ways. The best resource is our website, ccfoodbank.org. There's a Find Food button, and you can look at distributions. You can put in your address, and the distributions come up. All the distributions are also listed alphabetically, and there's also a calendar of our fresh produce distributions on there. People can also call 211. It's a partnership with United Way. They have all of this data, and they can call and provide their address, and the operator will provide them with their closest food distribution as well.
That's great. Thanks. And one last question for you. In this season where it feels like the whole world is coming to an end, what is something that's encouraging to you or giving you hope right now?
I think really just the innovation and how the community has come together. Time and time again, we as leadership at the food bank have been asked to share our best practices with the rest of the Feeding America network. And I think that really shows a lot of, our grit and determination here in the Central Valley and how we really care for our own. COVID is really hard, and now we've been impacted by the creek fires, but we really are resilient and we care for one another. And I think that during this time, that has been so, heartening to see the community rallying together to make an impact on those that are most vulnerable, and even those who didn't think they were vulnerable a couple of months ago, who now find themselves needing help for the very first time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Thanks. Well, I want to say thank you for spending some time with us tonight. I've had such a good time getting to know you and just learning more about the work that you do and how we fit into that picture. So thank you for joining us tonight. If you're watching today, you are welcome to join us this Wednesday at 7. We're going to be having a discussion group time. You can find out more information about this whole series at upcfresno.org/conversations. And next week, we are welcoming Dr. Dimpna Uglu Ogji as she shares about her work with Fresno Land and the racial inequality that she's seen here in the Central Valley and ways that we can start to dismantle that. So thank you for adding your voices to the congregation or the conversation. And Kym, thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. And I look forward to connecting with the rest of you all soon. So we will let you go.
Thanks,
bye, everybody.